As you can see, the S1K is back in the garage, finally, with its new 2018 engine and electronics to match. It's running solid, but there's still some things I need to do to it. Do you see anything missing? Maybe it'll help to look at the Aprilia first. That's right, there's no radar detector in place. I already sold my Gen 1 and got my Gen 2. As you can see, it looks very similar in size and shape to the original Gen 1, but it's just a hair bigger than the Gen 1, which means it won't quite fit on the bracket I have, and I'm gonna have to redesign it. Now I have to make this there. Here's the old Gen 1 V1 that I modeled, and now I just have to modify that to look like the new one. I did all my measurements, updated the model, then kind of realized it's probably silly to go through and design a whole nother fancy one of these and have it machined for just one when I have a flat one that I can put in place a hell of a lot easier. Swapped out the V1 specific mount with the more universal platform mount, and it's got those kind of scabbed up screws in there, but that's fine. I'll swap them out. I've got new ones on order. A little acetone to watch both surfaces, get them clean. On the bottom of the radar detector, wipe them dry. Two pieces paired, and so I'm going to put one set on the platform where I want it, and then I'll set the radar detector on top of it. Now I can see what the dash looks like. Now I know when I'm riding, I want to be able to see the speed. It's in a little bit different position than my last gauge cluster, so I'll have to adapt a little bit. But I think if I basically set it flush with the front end, you can kind of see the time there off to the side. I can see the gear and the mileage. That's about right. Peel the release liners off here. I just got to line it up correctly. Work it around a little bit, make sure that bottom of this sticks to the dual lock for a secure mount. After taking the fairing on the right side loose and moving that aside, you can see right there is the connector you want that's there for data logging or some kind of deal. And that's what I'm going to use for power with the key switch for the radar detector. This is the BMW accessory cable that I'll be using. That's installed so I can put a voltmeter on it and see which is the lead. Use the voltmeter, figured out which one's plus and which one's minus. The minus has continuity to a ground, and this is the one that switches on and off with 12 volts. Running. This is the straight cable that came with the V1 kit. It's too long. I'm going to start by cutting it in half, and that way I can route it through the handlebars how I want. Now I have the cable routed underneath, through where the clutch cable goes through, tie wrapped around. I know where I'm going to mount the connector, so I cut this down, and now I'm going to install the matching connector on the other end. Attach the V1 connector in place with more dual lock, just making sure it's out of the way for when you move the handlebars. I can turn the key, and I've got power. So now I know my wiring is right. Now I just have to connect the joints, put everything in place, tucked away nice and clean. The other kind of confusing thing about this is that when you turn the key off, it stays on for 30 seconds. All right, here's my V1 side of it. And what I tend to do is I stagger the cuts so that the solder joints are not right on top of each other. And then I just make the negative and positive match so that there won't be any slack in the wires. I like to use this tool for getting the insulation off the end of the wire. I've cut a piece of shrink tubing for each one to isolate the joint. I've got a bigger one to go over both of those in the entire joint, and then I've got this one to cover the yellow wires. Time to solder the joint and try not to melt anything I shouldn't. There's that one. All right, now I've got both joints soldered. The shrink tube over this. Roll this shrink tubing over that joint. And then move this shrink tube down to cover as as much of the joint as I can back to where it stops here. So this will be exposed, but that's fine. It's protected. Everything's tied up nice and tight. I got one more to cut off. You can see it back there. Routes around. It's clear where I've turned the bars both ways just to make sure that there's no interference with any of the cables or the forks or anything. And now I turn the key, comes on, panel's back in place. And this thing feels a little bit wobbly. I don't have a lot of dual lock on it because that stuff sticks so good that you don't want it to be tearing other stuff loose, but I think I need a little bit more to give it some stability, so I'm gonna put a little bit more on. Got the new screws in, so I'm replacing those old chewed up ones. Went back and put some wider dual lock strips on here, and so I've peeled the backing off the bottom, stuck them in place, and now I'm taking the top off. Now I have both open sides exposed. I've already fitted this, figured out exactly how I want it to sit, centered on the platform, and so now I just have to put it in place and secure it. I'll need both hands to do that. You can kind of see back there that what I did is made sure that the serial number of the device isn't covered by the dual lock. And if you look at it this way, you can see it's centered on the platform. That ensures that it's looking straight forward. And I also know that I designed that platform with a 3-degree downward angle to make sure that it was going to catch bounce off the road. Everything works. Now it's time to set it up to the phone. This is JBV1 is the app. I've used the YAV1 before, but the JBV1 seems to be the one that works the best for me so far. So I hook it up, I connect, connects to here, seems happy, turn the display off, display goes off, display on, close, and we're ready to go. There's a whole bunch of settings in this app that you can use. I have it set up already because I've done that for the Aprilia. But go in there, there's things like muting it below a certain speed that's nice, adjusting your volumes. Make sure you have the audio always coming through the phone, which will then go through to your helmet, and I'll show you that in a minute. The last piece of the puzzle is my Cena 30K. And I've installed that on my helmet, and that's basically just getting Bluetooth from the phone. So if you think of your phone as like the central point of communication, the radar detector talks to the phone, and then the phone sends the audio signal up to your helmet and through the speakers in there. Also, if you get calls or your music's playing in here, and it comes out in the speakers through the helmet as well. When you're using your phone, make sure that you activate the music first and then activate the app as the last thing you do before basically dimming the screen. And with JBV1, even though you dim it, it will keep active. The V1 app at this point does not do that, and you'd have to keep your screen on the whole time.